these companies were not building businesses. They were building assets, which they were going to sell to the next highest bidder through M&A or whatever. They weren't really built to stay. And so as long as you're profitable, you get to stay in business next year and you get to see what happens next. And I just saw all these companies come and go, even though they were well capitalized. All of a sudden, companies wash out.
Hey, welcome back to the show. And today I'm so excited to have with us Jason Fried because let's face it, if you don't know who he is, you should. So Jason, will you tell us who you are and what kind of problem would you set out to solve in your last business?
Sure. So my name is Jason Fried. Yeah, I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called 37 Signals. And we started back in 1999. So we've been doing this for almost 25 years, getting up on 25. We're known for making Basecamp, which is a project management tool, and also hey.com, HEY.com, which is an email service. Written some books, rework. It doesn't have to be crazy at work, remote, getting real, shape up, done a bunch of stuff like that. But we're also known for...
you say that so casually. That's like six books right there.
This is what we've been doing for 25 years, staying busy. And we've also kind of tried to run an unusual company. We're fully remote. Yeah. We have been remote forever, basically. We don't take outside money, so we're bootstrapped. Wow. And we're like kind of slow growers in a sense. Like we're just all about steady, consistent growth over time versus trying to hockey stick or do something really rapid. So we're very much into consistent steadiness. And then just compounding interest, essentially, just compound a little bit every year. And, you stay in business and be profitable and great things can happen. So that's sort of our general background.
Most bootstrappers are that way. And for those of you who don't know Basecamp and aren't familiar with Hey, I mean, first of all, anyone with a 3-digit .com is pretty awesome, just so you know. But back in the day,
that was not easy to get.
No, I bet not. I bet not. But I mean, back in the day, like 1999, I remember I started a business in 1999, and that actually it wasn't long after that where we investigated Basecamp and we were trying to use it as a project management tool. We had a service-based company, but 1999 was a crazy time to start businesses. .coms were coming and going. Everyone was exploding and everyone was blowing up like at the same time, and it was really odd. How did you decide to bootstrap when everybody else was raising crazy money at that time?
Yeah, so when we first started, we were a web design company. So we weren't making software yet. We didn't make Basecamp, the software product, till 2004. Okay, but we were doing a website design for hire. And it was 4 of us. And there was just 4 of us. And we had enough clients to pay for our 4 salaries. And we each pitched in $10,000 each. So we had... Actually, 3 of us did because there's 3 founders and 1 employee. So we had $30,000. We had a client or 2 who was paying us something. We had very little expenses. We were just borrowing someone else's office space. And raising money wasn't even something we considered because I wouldn't have known what to do with the money, frankly. Second of all, no one would have given us any money. We were a web design firm. They weren't really spending money on web design firms at the time. But yeah, everyone around us and all the clients we were working for were raising a bunch of money. And I saw the craziness. I saw this world of, it was nonsensical to me, frankly. Like, I don't understand why you just got $3 million. You don't even know, like, you have no customers. You don't have a product to sell. The thing you're giving away is free. Like, what? So
it doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It didn't make sense. So we just saw this world, and it kept me very honest about it, which is like, I don't want to enter that world because I saw the amount of pressure people were under to hit targets that other people set for them. I've never been somebody who wants to hit someone else's targets. I'm just not interested in that, right? But so in 2001 came, and then there was a .com crash, and a lot of people got washed out, and this happened again and again. It happens, every 8-10 years, whatever. So we've been through a few trends, but yeah, for us, it just wasn't even an option. Didn't make any sense then. It doesn't make any sense now. And we're self-funded and loving it.
Love it. Yeah. And you're still self-funded.
Still, I mean, so for us, independence is the most valuable thing that we have. And there's only one way to lose that, which is to raise money from somebody else. Now, for full disclosure, because people bring this up, in 2006, we took some money from Jeff Bezos, who bought some founder shares from me and David. So that money went to us. It did not go into the business. The business has never been funded by anybody other than our customers. But David and I took a little bit of risk off the table in the mid 2000s. But yeah, 100% customer funded. And it's the most fun way to run a business. I just love it. Independence you get from that.
Well, and one thing that I've always respected about you and your business is the fact that you are so community driven. And a lot of people don't really understand what that means nowadays. Now, you guys were very early at this. As you mentioned, always working remotely, always working very community based. And so tell us about that decision and how that impacted the way you grew your business. Because a lot of people out there are kind of unsure about doing that. It's like, no, I know what my customer wants, but you guys actually like reached out quite a bit to your community base.
We've always been big into sharing. And I took this inspiration from chefs. So chefs, strange place to take inspiration for a software business, but chefs write cookbooks and they sell or give away their recipes. And you'd think, why would they give away like what they do?
Yeah.
Like someone's going to buy their cookbook and then open a restaurant next to them and put them out of business. Like everyone knows that's ridiculous. But in the business world, every business, especially growing up in this world, was like so tight. Everyone was afraid to share, afraid to engage people, afraid to ask for people's opinions, afraid to talk to their customers openly and honestly.
Yeah.
And it never made sense to us. I'd rather be like a chef, like, hey, here's our cookbook. Here's our stuff. So we wrote books, which were essentially our recipes for how we do business. We've had a blog since 99, 2000 that had open comments so people could comment. We've been very, open on Twitter and LinkedIn and different platforms, just talking to people and sharing our points of view and disagreeing when we would disagree, agreeing when we agree, pushing back, getting pushed back on. But we're very much involved in the community because that's where our customers are. That's who our customers are. And that's what we want to be, who we want to be, what we want to do. And, the other side effect of this is that we don't have a marketing budget, really. We spend a little bit, but barely anything, all things considered. And this is wonderful marketing. Just being visible, being accessible, being engaged sharing is a great way to get the word out.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And that's something we're seeing a lot of people having a lot of impact, just sharing what they know. And I like you, similar age, I think, I've been the same range.
Yep.
And as I was starting early businesses in the .coms, I was always scared to death to tell anybody what I was doing because it seemed like the minute you did, somebody would go raise $3 million, like you mentioned, and they were way ahead of you all of a sudden, but then they would tank. And we kept growing. It was a really interesting pattern. And I'm noticing go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, we saw that same pattern, right? Which is, we launched something and then someone else launches something bigger and everyone's like, how are you going to beat them? They're going to raise all this money. It's like, they're going to be out of business in 3 years. Just wait. Like that's always just wait.
Seriously.
Because these companies were not building businesses. They were building assets, which they were going to sell to the next highest bidder through M&A or whatever. They weren't really built to stay.
Totally.
And so as long as you're profitable, which we've always been every year for 24 years now, you get to stay in business next year and you get to see what happens next. And I just saw all these companies come and go, even though they were well capitalized. They didn't make any money. They kept hemorrhaging money. And then when the bad times or when the good times end and the bad times come, when money's hard to get, like right now, people can't really raise money right now. Things are not good in that world. All of a sudden, companies wash out who were just the biggest thing in the world 2 years ago. So patience, profitability, and sticking around is a great way to outlast your competitors.
Well, and I love the and I'm not sure this is the chronological order of your books, but getting real, rework, remote. It doesn't have to be crazy at work. Like it sounds like this is a story of your growth cycle in your company.
Yeah.
How accurate is that? And tell us about what information were you giving out at different stages and why did you feel like the world needed to hear that?
Yeah. So first of all, you got that order correct.
Good.
Getting Real was our first book that was a little bit more technically minded, a little bit more for software developers, because that's who we really were at the time. We were making Basecamp and we wanted to share our methods for how to build software in a different way. We had a very different point of view on it. That was self-published. Rework was our first major published book. And that was broader in scope. That was more about how to run a business, not just how to make software. It wasn't about software. It was about business in general, which had a broader audience. We had more lessons under our belt by that time. That was 2010. So we've been doing this for over a decade at that point. And so we just had more to say that was more applicable to more people. And then we've been working remotely for so long that we wrote remote after that. And that was really early. I think that was
totally early.
2000, 13 or I forget when that came out, whatever. But it was very early. Everyone kept asking us, how do you do remote work? And we're like, here, let's just write a book about it because everyone's asking us. So some of the stuff is driven out of the community. People want to know something. We have something to say about this. We have enough to say that we can put this in a book. And then It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work, which is our latest major published book, is about this world we're living in right now where everyone's distracted. Everything's ASAP. Everyone's trying to run super fast all the time. And if you ask people what it's like at work, they're going to it's crazy at work. And that used to be this point of pride, but I don't think so.
Totally.
So we want to push back on that whole thing and say, it should be calm. Run a calm company. And it doesn't have to be crazy like this. So you don't have to be working on the weekends. You have to be in meetings all day. You don't have to be doing this and distracting and being pulled off this and being pulled on that and all the things. It can be a calmer place to work, a calmer environment, and you can make just as much progress, if not more, if you have things under control that way. So we kind of shared those lessons. And then Shape Up, which is our latest book, is we self-published this book, is all about our methodology for how we build software now, which is different than Getting Real. Getting Real is a bit more conceptual, and this is a bit more practical. So we just share things as time goes on for what we think we have that's worth sharing.
I love
There's no schedule. It's not like every 5 years we do.
Okay.
It just, when it happens, it happens. The same thing is true for blog posts or writing on LinkedIn or Twitter. We don't have there's no publication schedule. When we have something to say, we say it. And sometimes it's 3-4 things a week. Sometimes it's one thing every 3 weeks. Sometimes it's 12 things a day. I don't know. It just, when we have something to say, it comes out, and that's just how it gets out there.
It's awesome. I just wanted to take a few seconds to tell you about a program that we have assembled with a lot of our podcast guests and a lot of people who are listening to the show who are feeling the same way that they do. There's a recurring theme. You'll hear a lot of these founders talk about, I couldn't have done it without my team. I couldn't have done it without a support group of peers. I couldn't have done it without having someone to talk to that understood my feeling of isolation as an operator of my business. You see, you're not alone. It is hard running a business, and it's even harder when you know you can't express all your deepest concerns and frustrations with your executive team. It makes them nervous. It gets them scared. You don't want scared people on your executive team. So where do you turn? The Captain's Council is where you turn. The Captain's Council, it is an organization that we are put together with podcast guests, as well as people who are listening who are in the same boat. You see, peers are the only ones that can give you the type of empathy, the type of advice that only a founder or operator know and understand. Go check it out at captainscouncil.com. I know you're going to love what you see there. We have put together an organizational structure that has small group settings, a global community of founders and operators, as well as monthly and quarterly in-person events. You're going to love what you see there. I can't wait for you to check it out and enjoy the rest of this episode. Yeah. It's awesome. I know you have a very loyal fan base, a very loyal user base. And so, when a lot of people talk about growing their business, whether it's SaaS or other dev type tools and things like that, they often say, the riches are in the niches. And as you keep within that very tight workflow that you guys have tried to produce over the years, you keep and sustain very loyal customers during that time. Now, what was the move and what triggered you to start Hey? And what was kind of the motivation behind that? Because a lot of people get nervous to branch off of their core product and start something new. What
totally. So we initially had Basecamp, and then we built 4 other major products. This was back in the mid 2000s. So we had Basecamp, then we had something called Backpack, then we had something called Campfire, then we had something called High Rise. So we'd been down this path of making multiple things at once.
Kind of remember.
We then realized a decade ago or so that not quite, but that we can't actually build all these things at once and do them well. The world has changed in that now everyone you need mobile apps on iOS and Android and a web app, and it's like one product is 4 products, 4 times 4,
right.
16, too many code bases, too many things, right? So we dialed all back to Basecamp, went all in on Basecamp for a number of years. And then we just had this itch a few years ago that there's 2 things. We run our entire business on Basecamp, all of our internal communication, project tracking, tasks, discussions, conversations, everything's in one platform. But there was one other thing that we did as a company. When we talked to the outside world, we did it via email. Vendors, accountants, lawyers, PR, booking a podcast, right? It's email.
Sure.
And we just realized like email sucks, but email's beautiful at its core. Email is a wonderful thing, but it had sort of been forgotten. Like Gmail hadn't been launched. Gmail was launched 16 years prior to when Hey launched. That was the last time email was exciting. And I remember that launch. It was so exciting. And Gmail is a great product, but nothing has happened in that world. And we thought we had a new set of ideas for how much better email could be. Still has the fundamentals there, but has a whole new take. And we felt like, look, you know what? We want to live in the tools that we build. We're using someone else's tool for all of our external communication. We can do a better job. So let's build that.
Interesting.
So we built that for ourselves and then released it for everybody else. And it turned out to be a much bigger hit than we ever anticipated. But now we have like the tools covered, like Basecamp's for internal, Hay's for external. And now we feel like we've got 2 great points of view on the things that we use every day.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. And the name, I mean, why the big importance on such a short domain?
So pretty much forever, I've always started my emails with Hey. So I'd be like, hey, Todd, hey, Jim, hey, Sally, whatever it would be, right?
Right.
And so I've always liked that, first of all. Hey is this very conversational thing. And because it's an email service and not a client, it's not a client that sits on top of Gmail. It's a full-blown service. Everyone who signs up gets an @hey.com domain name. So the domain name mattered a lot. We felt like it mattered a lot because you're going to be getting this email address. And Gmail was a short domain name, but Hey's even shorter. And so it was a really exciting thing for people to get an @hey.com. So we had to pull that off. It wasn't cheap and it wasn't a short process, but we made that happen. And it was worth it. It was one of those things where you look at the number, you're like, this is ridiculous to spend on a domain. I can't share what the number was, but I'm like, this is silly. But in the end of the day, it's like, you know what? These are the kinds of things that are fun to spend on. I'm not going to blow a bunch of money on this, but I will spend. This is an investment. It makes sense to us. It's a silly number, but it kind of, it's the bow. It's the bow on top. It just makes it all come together. So we felt like it was worth doing.
That's cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So now as you did all this and you guys, did you you stayed with the same core a team of 3 and then just kind of built up from there? Tell us about the structure. I mean, how did this all kind of evolve over the years? That's a long time for a partnership to stay active.
It is. So yeah, David and I have been together. Well, I originally had 2 different partners. It was me, a fellow named Ernest, and a guy named Carlos. We're the first 3 people who started the business in 99. Carlos left about a year in, Ernest a few years later, and I was on my own for a little bit. And then I met David. And so David's now, he's not technically a co-founder, but he is all intents and purposes, right? He's been around 20 years, worked together. But yeah, we started out as 4 people basically. And then we have about 80 people today. We're the biggest we've ever been, but we've kept our company intentionally small. If you look at most of the companies we compete with, companies like Asana or Monday or ClickUp or Atlassian, or these companies have many thousands of employees, massive budgets, their teams are bigger than our entire company. We've kept our company intentionally as small as we can. And we've been for the most of our lives, like under 30 people actually. And we just got to about 80 over the past couple of years. We sort of doubled basically in the past year and a half or 2 years.
Interesting.
But this is the reason why is because we want to be able to do multiple things at once again. So we want to be able to build Basecamp, improve Basecamp on multiple platforms at once. Hey, we have 2 more products we're working on right now. So we're going to get back to building more products again.
Cool.
And we need to have a team that can do all that at the same time versus before we just only be able to work on one thing at a time, have to put that aside to go work on something else. Sure. So that doesn't really work. But yeah, we've grown slowly and carefully over 25 years, roughly 25, and never getting ahead of ourselves, never hiring someone we can't afford, never hiring someone we think we might need. We only hire people when it hurts, is what we say. We try to do the job first ourselves. And then when we can't do it anymore, it's time to bring someone else on. That's the philosophy.
I think that that whole mindset that you got right there is very much a sign of your time and my time. I've always been the same way, the way I hire and the way that I build. But sometimes I second guess myself and I think, man, am I stupid for doing it this way? Because I look at this guy who just raised money and did it effectively, and now he's scaled and exited by the time I got something launched. You know what I mean? How do you feel about that?
I mean, everyone's going to come up with their own thing and do their own thing. Right. So, if you're trying to build a business to scale it and sell it, you're going to take a different approach than I'm going to take. True. My interest is like, I think if you get lucky once in life or in business, like you're lucky, like milk it.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, milk it. It's like lightning strikes, right? So I love what I do. Not every day, but overall. And we love being independent. We love putting our own books out there, our own ideas out there, our own products out there. I love the people I work with. We've got a great crew. Right. Why would I want to give that up? Like, I'm not interested in exiting. I have no interest in exit. We don't have an exit plan. I want to stay in business, not get out of business. But if you're someone who wants to, or you're a serial entrepreneur, I'm a very non-serial entrepreneur. Like, I will do this business for as long as I can, and then I will probably never, ever start another business again. Like, this is the only business I want to run.
That's
funny. And I want to still do it.
That's great.
It's my day job. It's great to be able to make your own day job, which is essentially what running your own company is. And so, but some people like to build and sell and build and sell and build and sell. So for them, this model doesn't work as well as maybe raising a bunch of money and then finding someone to buy it at some high valuation and showing growth numbers that aren't sustainable forever, but short enough period of time that it's exciting and someone wants to buy the company. You just got to figure out what you want to do. What's important though, and this is one of the reasons we put our books out and our ideas out, is that way, which is the popular way on social media and in entrepreneurial circles, which is like build big, raise a bunch of money, get big, unicorn thing. Totally. That is one way. But by the way, the odds are so stacked against you that that's ever going to work. But it seems like that's the only way to do it. We want to make sure there's a clear alternative out there, which is our way, which is not just ours, but bootstrapping, growing thoughtfully, being profitable, making more money than you spend. Someone needs to stand as the model example of that. And there's many companies. We're contributing to that model, hopefully. And it's important that people see that it doesn't have to be like your friend's way. That's one way. But
no. And it's so interesting because probably like you, I've been asked to speak at a lot of, like at my alma mater, speaking to students about entrepreneurship and business growth and that kind of stuff. And every time I do, I see these kids coming to school and they're in an entrepreneurial program and literally they're taught to immediately raise money almost before the idea is realized. You know what I mean? It's like, there's no customer base. There's no nothing. I'm thinking, who is teaching you guys how to be an entrepreneur and thinking like that? You know what I mean? It blows my mind. And so I love hearing people like you.
It's irresponsible, isn't it? In business schools?
I think it is too.
Yeah.
I think it's irresponsible too.
Yeah, I agree. And it really frustrates me. And I speak to a lot of universities and I get upset. I mean, in a supportive way, but I'm like,
totally.
Everyone in this class, you need to very few people are going to be able to build a business, raise a bunch of money and sell it for a bunch of money. That's like such an outlier. The best chance you're going to have is to build a business that makes more money than it spends. It gets a sustained business. Like I always say, like the pizza shop down the corner, down the street, like they're not trying to sell pizzas at a loss. They're trying to sell pizzas at a profit. Like build a business like the local pizza shop. The dry cleaner's not selling or cleaning your shirts at a loss. They need to put money on food on the table and money in their bank account and save for retirement. Like build a solid, sustainable, basic business 101 kind of business. And you're going to have a much better shot, as hard as it all is, because most businesses don't make it anyway. But you can really increase your odds if you just kind of keep it within your means and grow smartly, grow thoughtfully. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't put yourself in a bind,
Right.
Yeah.
Solve a problem that people need a solution for, and you've got yourself a business.
Yeah, and take good care of people, and don't have too many people. Watch your costs. This is the other thing people don't talk about, and they never talk about it in business
Agreed.
school. Like, they also about raising money and evaluations. How about your costs? Let's keep your costs in check here. That's the thing that gets out of control oftentimes, and that's what really hurts a lot of companies. They don't even look at their costs because they're spending other people's money. So they don't care about the cost because there's more free money they can just pull. Seriously. But there's some point there isn't free money, and then you got to keep your costs in check. And if you're not good at that, by the time you need to do it, you're in deep trouble.
It is amazing. And it's amazing what VCs teach their people to do. And that is just, I'm giving you $5 million, spend it as fast as you can, and we'll get the next raise.
Well, that's their model.
They cash out.
Yeah, that's their business model. And like, I don't blame them for that. That's their model. It's more the entrepreneurs who need to say, like, what's in it for me? Because I know it's in it for the VC 100%. Firm to give me money and have me spend it all, and then I have to come back for more, and then I have to lose more of my company, and it become more diluted. And then at the end of the day, like now I only own 8% of this thing. They own 92, and they sell for a big number, and they get the majority. I put in all the work. They get the majority of the payout.
They get everything.
Wait a second, So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, my goodness, Jason, I love this conversation. I honestly, mad respect for what you've done. And for those of you listening who are nervous that you're the only bootstrapper out there, may I tell you that Jason and I are both phenomenal bootstrappers. I think we both have had the success, the life we wanted to live at the pace we want to live it. Make time for the family, make time for the things that are important to you. And don't feel like you need to be beholden to somebody. Every time you raise money, you now become beholden to that person. And as you let those people enter your life, don't be surprised if you lose some control. And so I just think that you've proven the model, 25 years running the same company, seeing continual growth. And I applaud you for the last couple of years of growth and development into these new products because, I think you've got some loyal fans, loyal customers, but I bet they've been hitting you up for changes for a few years now. So as you adapt to their needs, I just love what you're doing. Thank you for doing it.
Well, thank you. It's a lot of fun, and really, ultimately, business should be one of the most fun things you do. And unfortunately, it tends to be one of the most stressful things for most people. And I think part of it is the situations they put themselves in. Now, I'm not talking about someone who has to work a job for someone they don't like and you don't have much choice. I get that. But for entrepreneurs, this is really an exercise in independence. Yet so many people become so dependent so quickly, and then they lose control of their own business, and they just end up, I've seen it so many times. They just end up stressed out, cashed out, frustrated, and they wish they could have it back, but now you can't. And then they're working for someone else. And the whole point of going into business for yourself was not to work for someone else, but now they are because they're working for a VC or whatever.
It's crazy.
It's very enticing, right? Someone's got this. Here's a big check. It's like, amazing. I'll take it. Who's going to write me a check for $1 million? Well, this guy will. But you don't really realize what it costs you. That's the thing.
Golden handcuffs are still handcuffs.
They're still handcuffs. That's right. That's right.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And before you go, I always ask if there's been somebody who's kind of been that shoulder to lean on, that person that's kind of mentored you, or group of people that have helped you kind of get to where you're at today. Who would you like to give that shout out to today?
So one of my very, very, very first customers ever was before I was even running this business. I was a freelancer in high school making software for myself. I was music organizing software. I had a music collection, tapes, CDs. I was loaning them out to friends, and then I'd never get them back. So I made this software to organize like what I gave to
Been there, done that. Yeah.
Anyway, I put this up on AOL. So this is pre-internet. And eventually this fellow named Richard Bird bought it. And Richard and I have stayed in touch for close to 30 years now. We talk less these days, a few times a year now, but we used to talk for many, 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 many years, daily, every other day. Wow. He had a wonderful graphic design company making product packaging design. I was doing graphic design, and he really sort of mentored me and was always a shoulder to lean on and talk about business. And special guy, really special guy. So thank you, Richard Bird.
Love it. Love it. What a fantastic shout out. Jason, what a fantastic company. What a journey. I love,
thank you.
Your whole analogy of your entire business, as I've watched it, has been about climbing the mountain. And I love that you are climbing this mountain. You're still on the mountain. Got to be just looking for new peaks to get on top of, but awesome work, and way to keep true to your brand and to your theme. Way to go.
I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Todd. It really, really means a lot. Thank you.
And for those of you out there wondering what your next step is, learn a lot from this. You don't have to go for money. You don't have to be that guy that needs a new boss. Just be what you are and continue to find those people who follow you. And you'll have an amazing business like Jason's built the last 25 years. Jealous you're still doing the same thing. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. We'll catch you on the next episode. Hey, I hope you love that interview with Jason. What a fantastic guy. So humble, and yet has built such a solid foundation. What an amazing business. What an amazing lifestyle he's built around his company, around his followers, and about his theme of climbing that mountain. And as you look into what Jason's done with his business, I highly suggest you go subscribe to both Basecamp and to Hey. Check it out, see what it does differently, see how it can help your business grow. Jason spent some time talking about the community of customers, community of people that have helped him, a community around someone who was one of his first buyers of product and maintained the relationship for this long. I love hearing about that. For those of you that don't have a community, that are feeling all alone as a founder out there, maybe you've got a partner, but maybe it's hard to talk to them about certain things. There is a safe place to do this, and we call it captainscouncil.com. Check it out. At captainscouncil.com, we bring CEOs and founders together in a creative environment where 8 to 12 members join together and form a council. This council is your brotherhood, sisterhood, whatever you want to call it, where you can feel safe and express the things that are going on in your business that you're not really sure how to solve. We all have them. We all have areas we're trying to focus on and we get distracted. But when you're accountable to a council, a board of advisors, it feels like a board of advisors who are there to help you make the decisions that you need to make the right decisions that are going to help your business grow, and keep you stabilized as a human being, because sometimes being the boss isn't always comfortable. So stay true to who you are, stay true to your business. Check out captainscouncil.com. Find those relationships you need with other active CEOs and founders who are building and growing their businesses. I promise it helps you. It makes you feel so much better about the way you build and grow. Check it out at captainscouncil.com. Being part of our podcast community is the first step of joining us on this journey. We are so glad to connect with you. Make sure you subscribe and help us build better content that's free, that's there for you to build and grow your business. And when you're ready, we'll see you in the Captain's Council. Thanks for being a part of the show. We'll see you on the next one.